Oh my goodness, I felt so relieved. It just kind of happened. I think it was on a Sunday, and I kind of woke up and I was like, man, I really think I should tell somebody. I should probably tell my parents. I gotta tell them. I gotta tell them. So there's a bunch of kind of positive energy for me building up to disclose. And once I told them, I wrote it down. Once I wrote it down and passed them the note, I just felt so relieved. Like, oh, okay, the secret's out. I don't have to hold it or carry it anymore. It's kind of in my parents' hands. They're gonna fix everything. They're gonna help me, and everything is gonna be okay. So it was just an immense feel of release and just happiness that, oh, this whole thing is done. It's over. That's what I thought. I was 10 years old when I first disclosed my abuse. And I think at the time when I said what had happened, I wasn't sure how I was feeling, but as time went on, definitely I did not feel disclosed. I mean, I did not feel supported at all, like at all. There was a lack of support for me, and it really hurt me that I'm saying this big, gigantic thing that I've been holding inside. And after I've had all this strength and courage to say something, there's nothing. So I did not feel supported. False.
That's a false. I did not feel supported, and I don't blame the people that I told at first because I think they did not have the understanding of what I was trying to communicate to them. So it's a false. I did not feel supported. A false rather because of the person I told first.
That's a tricky question. For me, it was kind of both. For at a really strong point in my life for a long time, I did not feel supported when I told my story. However, there was a moment or a couple of months later on in life where I did feel supported, and I was happy to tell my story. So for me, it was a bit of both. I was supported, and at the same time, I felt like I wasn't supported.
I chose my parents because they're supposed to be my ride or die. Something happens, they always tell me, we're there for you, anything you need. So I told my parents, and I was hopeful that something would happen. I would be supported, I would be believed, that there would be repercussions, I would get help, that there would be all these things. So I chose my parents.
So the first person I told I was a girlfriend, and I think, as I said earlier, she did not have the understanding of what I was trying to communicate to her. It was sort of an experiment, trying to experiment, telling people what had happened to me years ago, and seeing if they would understand, and then I would disclose more to them. But most of the people I told at first, as I said, they lacked the understanding of what I was trying to say. So at last, I went to social media and I told my story, and I had read other people had shared. Who had shared their stories, and I felt compelled to share mine because I felt there was a community of people who would listen. So I chose to tell social media because I saw other survivors telling their stories, and they were believed, although there are some people who did not believe them and certainly did not believe me. And I chose that social media as a person, as a group of people to tell because there was also a community of survivors that came to me and said, "Hey, this also happened to me, and you do not feel you should not feel alone in this. You are not insane. You are okay. This is this happened to you, and we believe you."
Okay, the person I chose was my best friend Sam, and the reason why I chose her was because I felt comfortable in telling her. I felt that if I were to tell her, she would not judge me and she would understand. And I knew that if I told her, I would have her support. And yeah, that's basically why I told her.
I was 10 years old when I first told anyone, and I told my parents. I didn't realize at the time, but it was more of a litmus test. So I didn't tell them about everything or everyone that had done something to me. I told them about one person, one incident, and I was trying to get feedback. Like I wasn't really sure what I should be doing or how I should be saying it. And from the response I got from my parents after that day, I felt like maybe I wasn't believed. Maybe they're unsure of my story because there was really no follow-up. The day of, when I told them what happened, my mom took me into the bathroom and she was very calm and just asking questions. She was just trying to get information, trying to understand what I was really saying. And in that moment, I felt like I was believed. I didn't feel like, oh, you're just making it up. But in the aftermath, it just felt like they they didn't feel I was being as truthful because there was no follow-up.
To say that I was believed, that would be lying. I live in a community where if you are a survivor, sexual abuse as a child or sexual assault as an adult man, you consented, you wanted it, or you were part of it. So the people I was trying to tell looked at me in such a way that I could tell these people are not believing me. And as I said, it's a community, it's a type of community that does not believe men can be sexually assaulted. Men can be sexually abused their children. So yes, it's false. It's true. I was not believed.
I was believed. I was believed. And it felt good to be believed because for a very long time I did not tell anybody because I had that fear that I wasn't going to be believed. However, it kind of felt like at the same time I wasn't believed, how Zinette said, because there was no follow-up. And when I would tell her when it would occur and whatnot, I would get like advised and I would like be told like, oh, you should tell someone. But it was very hard to tell that person when it was occurring and whatnot. So I was believed, but like I said, it was just really hard because I feel like that person didn't really know what to say, and it was really hard for them as well. So yeah.
Oh my goodness, I felt so relieved. It just kind of happened. I think it was on a Sunday, and I kind of woke up and I was like, man, I really think I should tell somebody. I should probably tell my parents. I gotta tell them. I gotta tell them. So there's a bunch of kind of positive energy for me building up to disclose. And once I told them, I wrote it down. Once I wrote it down and passed them the note, I just felt so relieved. Like, oh, okay, the secret's out. I don't have to hold it or carry it anymore. It's kind of in my parents' hands. They're gonna fix everything. They're gonna help me, and everything is gonna be okay. So it was just an immense feel of release and just happiness that, oh, this whole thing is done. It's over. That's what I thought.
So at first, I was sharing bits of it, and I was sharing it on social media. And I shared it on social media because I found community, and indeed people believed me. So I was letting a big burden off my chest, and it was a secret I had held on for so long. Remember, I shared my story for the first time when I was almost 30. So I had kept the secret for about more than 20 years, and it felt, the small parts of it I was sharing, it felt like I was releasing something from me that I had held on for so long. But then the secret, it was worse, and I felt guilt because I had held on a secret for so long, and then it had something similar it happened within the family. And it had happened not once and not twice, but 3 times. So I had a burden of my own that I had not shared with anyone, certainly not within the family. And then the same thing had started to happen within the family for a number of years. So I felt guilt, and then I felt I was releasing something. So the more I shared and the more I connected what had happened to me with what had happened within the family, and how I had, after I was sharing my story, how I had handled the situation within the family, I felt, and I still feel, and it's evolving, I still feel that I am letting it all off my chest.
The way I felt was like a huge relief. The first time I told someone, it was such a huge relief for me, because for me, I kept the secret for a very long time, and the situation just kept on getting worse and worse, and it affected my mental health to the extreme, to the point that I was very isolated. I did not talk to anyone. I was at home the whole day, and it affected my mental health, like I said, to the extreme. It's really bad. So for me to tell my friend Sam, it was a huge relief. And at the same time, I felt supported. I felt like I had that support somehow. And it helped my mental health in like a little bit, because I felt like I can go to someone when for a very long time I was isolated and I couldn't tell anybody. So for me, it was just a huge amount of relief, just support.
I feel like my first disclosure affected how I told people in like my mode. So I was so nervous the first time that I wanted to tell someone. I told my parents and I decided I couldn't speak. So I wrote them a little letter. So I wrote them, wasn't a little letter. I wrote to them and I placed it on their bed, and I kind of just waited to see what would happen next. And the next time I disclosed, that was 7 years later. My boyfriend in high school at the time, I felt like I really just wanted to tell him so he could, kind of understand why I am the way I am in a way. He later ended up to be my husband, is my husband, but I also I wrote a little note because I needed to say something. I felt it was important for our relationship, but I didn't know how to do it audibly. Another thing is that doing it the first time and being let down so severely, it helped me to acknowledge and know what my expectations are. Why am I disclosing this? Is it release for myself so that I could feel less weight about the situation or maybe the relationship that I have with the individual that I'm disclosing it to? Is it just to share, just to be a part of something or a community, just so other people feel some type of connection and then I can feel a connection with them? Or is it maybe to inspire, like this happened to me, but XYZ. So knowing my expectations and why I am disclosing really helps set the tone for all of the disclosures that I have done, all the subsequent ones over the years.
The first time I shared my story has affected how I tell other people, how I share my story to other people. Well, it has affected, first of all, how I share with them, when I share with someone else, and what I need to share with them. So it depends actually on the context. So in a safe space like this, I am comfortable to share because I know people understand me. They're not judgmental and so on. But I do not share as much information publicly as I used to because of the effect sharing has had on me. I have had people saying that I am mentally ill because I chose to disclose what had happened to me and to my siblings on social media. So it has affected me so much, and it has affected how, when, and what I want to share, and with who I want to share.
For me, the first time I told someone, it helped me to, it gained my courage to later on tell my family. However, unfortunately, when I came out to my family, it was like some people believed me and some people didn't. And when I was let down and I was accused of like, you know, my own abuse and stuff, somehow it was very harsh and it was barbaric. However, that helped the people, thanks to the people who did support me and who did believe me. Thanks to that, that helped me gain the courage to later on seek help and seek, you know, support groups. And that helped me later on be comfortable with telling my story. And it helped me just, you know, just thanks to the people who actually did support me to, yeah, it just helped me be comfortable with telling my story and wanting to make that change in life, wanting to seek out others to have each other and support each other. So that's the way it affected me. It just helped me gain courage. It just helped me be comfortable, and it helped me wanting to tell my story to help others.
I don't really think I have any regrets in disclosing my abuse. I think that I disclosed it to the right people. I think at 10 years old, that's a very difficult thing to do. It's a difficult thing to do at 30, at 40, at 50, at 60 years old. It's difficult. And I think I'm just really proud of myself that I had the courage to say something and kind of formulate words that were understood, even if there was very little follow through and lack of, I guess, help um, over the years. It was still something that I'm glad that I did. Um, as I've said before, I only realized later on that my disclosure to my parents was more of a litmus test because I didn't tell them everything and everyone and all the different abuses that I had incurred as a child, as a younger child. So yeah, no real regrets. I'm just really proud of myself.
I think the disclosure is an inspiration to me rather than a regret. It is because I have had people come to me and say, this also happened to me. So I felt there are people that I can connect with. There are people that I share the bad experience I had, not in a good way, however, but these people experienced it like me, and I don't know how they felt, but there's some sense of connection there. And it's again not a regret because I now work with an organization that addresses child sexual abuse. And sharing my story inspires other people to protect their children. So to say that I regret disclosing in the first place would be to deny what I am doing. So I don't think I have any regrets. And if I have any, I think they should leave.
For me, I had no regrets whatsoever. I feel like at the beginning, once I started telling people, it was very scary for me, and I was just like kept on thinking about it. I'm like, should I tell them? Should I not tell them? Until I started telling, you know, my best friend, and then I went to my best friend, to my family. But I have no regrets whatsoever because although this was a very harsh experience and very traumatic, somehow it changed me in a positive way because thanks to telling someone and building that courage, I decided to to become a therapist, to help people in the same way they helped me, and to be there for people, to bring awareness, to inform people about abuse. And yeah, so for me, it was no regrets. Somehow I took that harsh experience and I changed it into a positive thing. I tried to help other people. So for me, I have no regrets whatsoever. For me, I feel that it was the correct thing to do.
First, I think it can be a bit triggering at times when there are people who are confiding in you and telling you about their story. And for me, over the years, I've had a lot of friends who disclose, you know, this is what happened to me. Even some strangers too, this is what happened to me in a one-on-one occasion, not like a big group or anything. I think it's important when people come to us and they're opening their souls to us, for us to remember what it was like to do it if we have disclosed, and to be able to be compassionate and be empathetic. Like, man, I'm so sorry that happened to you. You know, do you want to talk more about it? Be like a listening ear. And if it's encouragement that they need, give that to them. If it's resources that they need, give that to them, because resources for me would have been a world of difference. It would have made, oh, man, my life would be so much different if I had been able to have access to resources when I disclose. So just being compassionate, empathetic, willing to listen, and allowing someone to really tell their story and to let them tell you on their terms. You don't need to know all the information. First, many survivors, we don't even want to necessarily know all the details because it could just be too triggering for us. But just to be there for that person, whether you know them, whether they're a stranger or a friend, just to be there.
Well, I think most of people do not disclose because they are not believed. So an ideal way to handle it if someone has disclosed, trusted you enough to disclose to you, is to say to them, I believe you. If I had someone telling me simply the first time I told my story, I believe you, I think I would have let it all out. And I also think an ideal way for someone to let someone disclose to you is, Zinette said, is to let them disclose on their terms. And then again, to allow them to share as much as they want to allow them to not share what they don't want to share. But also, again, I think an ideal way is to, after saying, I believe you, is to ask them to seek for support. Most of us are not professionals, unlike Alondra. So if someone is disclosing to me and I am not a professional, I would want to ask them. An ideal way to handle it is to ask them to seek support. After saying I believe them and sort of letting them share it on their terms, I think a real way is to ask them to seek support, professional support. So to add to that, I think an ideal way is to not try to compare what happened to them with what happened. I have heard people saying, sharing a different, after I had disclosed my abuse, they bring up another story, a similar story, or a different story, or a story of someone else, or something similar that happened to them. I think that affects the disclosure. That affects someone who is trying to disclose to you. So it is ideal not to try to compare what had happened to someone who is trying to disclose to you with what happened to you or what happened to someone else.
I think that the I don't know the proper terminology, but I think that the proper way to be there for someone when they come to you to abuse is making them feel that they're believed, they're supported, and they're loved. I think those are the three main things that you want to reassure that person when they come to you about your abuse. Because if you don't support them that support that they need, then they're not going to want to come back to you. And if they don't feel that they're loved by you, if it's if it's family or whatnot, then yeah, they're going to have a low self-esteem, because they're going to be like, oh well, this person didn't believe me, or she didn't love me and whatnot. But I think also another way is to make them feel that they can come to you whenever they need it, whether it's day, whether it's night, because I feel that that's what helped me a lot when I told someone. They're like, oh, you can come to me, you can call me, you can text me. And I feel that when you tell someone that, they're like, oh, she's there for me, she cares about me. And I think that's really important. And lastly, I think that it's also important to provide them with resources. So for example, when I've had friends tell me about their story, or even other different mental health issues, I tell them about mental health facilities that there's around California. And I tell them about the one I went to, and I tell them about my experience and how those people helped me, so they can feel that it's the right place to go to, that they'll feel supported, although they don't know those people. And if they're not comfortable with that, I think it's important to tell them about websites. There's websites on Google. There's certain websites like on Psych Mental Health where you just pick the category and you can do worksheets on like abuse, whether it's mental or physical, sexual, and it's just like coping strategies. And there's also books. I tell people to read books. Sometimes people don't really like reading books, but somehow I feel that when it's about something that's really close to you, that it's really personal, you want to read it. And I feel that books have changed my life as well on the topic. There's a lot of books that talk about abuse and the way to cope from trauma, from mental health abuse, sexual abuse, and those books have helped me tremendously. And I recommend all of those resources to those people so they can feel they have support in any way, you know. So I think that's the main thing, to tell people about resources to make them feel that they're loved and they're believed.
I'm leaning towards true. It does get a little easier each time I tell my story, but in a sort of way also false, because it still can be nerve-wracking when you're trying to articulate yourself in such a way that you want to get your story across, where people would really understand what happened to you, how you're feeling, the aftermaths of it, and how you're dealing with it in the moment. So a bit of both, true and false.
I think it's a true. It gets easier with time. It gets easier for me because now I have broad understanding of what happened to me and what happened within the family, in the family. I now understand it, although not the whole of it, but I now understand how things work with child sexual abuse and sexual assault. So when I'm trying to tell my story, over time it gets easier because I choose the people I want to share with, what information I want to share with them, and usually depends on the circumstance. And again, it becomes easier because there are some things I want to share and some things I don't want to share. So I have been sharing only those things I have wanted to share for quite some times now. It's not hard anymore. The things I don't want to share and I am not ready to share, I still keep them with myself. And if I had shared them before, I just keep them there. I only share what I am ready to share, and I share it over time. So it gets easier as I keep sharing it. So it's a true. It becomes easier with time.
I think it's true. I think that in the beginning, you might feel like it's not going to get easier, because I know I felt that way in the beginning. I felt like it wasn't going to get easier. However, the more I told my story, the more I felt comfortable in saying it, the more it felt that it was easier to tell my story. The more I seeked out help, the more I talked to a therapist, and the more I seeked out group therapy, it helped me tremendously to tell my story, to be comfortable with it. So I think it's true that it does get easier. I think that the more you tell your story, the better it gets, because you get it out there. You know, you feel that relief when you tell your story. I think that in my experience, the best moment to tell someone is when you're ready. You know, don't wait until the situation gets worse. In my experience, sadly, I waited until the situation was just to the extreme where I just had to come out. I was just like, oh, I can't handle this anymore. But again, I recommend to come out when you are ready. But, you know, just take that moment. And the best way I recommend to approach someone is, I think for me, it was like calling someone. Like calling and just one-on-one person. I know that one-on-one person is like the most familiar way to come out to someone, but you don't have to do it that way. You know, there's so many different ways to do it. But for me, I think that the best way was on the phone or one-on-one. You know, one-on-one, because when they believe you and they support you, they can hug you. And I feel like that hug, it will change your world. you will feel loved, you will feel believed when, if they give you a hug or they hold your hand or anything. That's why I recommend one-on-one. Or when you see that they're listening to you, I think that's why it's the proper way to approach someone. But I also recommend on the phone, because if you're too scared or you have high expectations of how it will come out on the phone, like, you won't see the way they're looking at you, or you won't like see their body behavior, like, or if they're like moving too much, or they might just look down and you might think that they're not believing you. So if you're too scared to approach someone one-on-one, I would recommend calling someone, calling your friend, calling a loved one and telling them. And
I feel like the perfect time to disclose is whenever you're ready. Now, that can look different to different people depending on where they are in their life, because if it's like the abuse has ended, it's more like when you're ready, when you're able to. But when you're in the midst of it and you're at, at present being abused, I feel like you should tell somebody right away. When I was younger, I used to hear something along the lines of, tell somebody until you're believed. And that seems like an arduous task, but I think it's important to do, because so many of us, we kind of just stop. The first time we said something and we weren't believed, or there was no follow-up, we kind of just were like, oh, forget it. For some of us, the abuse continued, or someone else abused us, and it was just, it wasn't helpful for us. So if you are at present being abused, I think you should tell somebody right away. Remember, it's not your fault. There are people that are willing to help. Just say something, right? Just say something. If the abuse has already ended, it still hurts, right? It's still with you. And I still think that you should tell someone, but more at your pace, when you feel ready, when you're like, okay, I can do this. But I want you to know that you can do this. You can say something, and it might not actually be you audibly saying something. You can send a text. You can call and just cry on the phone to someone. You can make a video, hit record, write a song. Are you a musician? Pour out your soul into your form of art. That would allow you to express yourself, and say like how you're feeling and what has happened to you, because it is your story. It's no one else's story but yours to tell, yours to share how and when you want to. But I feel it's important for you to actually tell someone.
For me, I think the how starts and then the when follows. And I think how starts because you have to know how are you going to tell your story to someone. So as Alondra and Zinette say, I think telling someone one-on-one is the best way to share your story. That's the best way I know how. And I think to know how you're going to share your story is, well, I think I need to share what I did. So I when I started sharing my story, it was like I was experimenting. So I am meeting someone, and in the middle of the conversation, say I share a little bit of what has happened to me. Usually that person is close to me. So I intend to figure out how they will respond. Do they have an understanding of what I'm trying to say to them? Do they relate? Will they be judgmental? And so on. So that's how I think another survivor should do. And in respect of when, I think like everyone here, a survivor should share their story when they are ready. You don't want to share your story with someone and the conversation and the conversation ends up with you getting even more hurt than you expected. So the moment to share it is when you're ready, when you know who you want to share with, how you want to share it with them, what you want to share it with them, and the nature, the environment you want to share it there. So that's how and when you can share your story.
I think something that Nova brought up that was really important is that when you tell your story, you have to keep in mind that you get to decide how much of the story you want to tell the person. You are not obligated to tell the details to the person. You can just tell them like the general story, and if they want to know details for some reason, or if you're not comfortable in telling them details, then I think it's important to keep in mind that you're in control of what you are telling that person, and you get to decide how much you want to tell that person. I think that's very important to tell people before they tell the story, because somehow or sometimes I feel like people think that they have to tell the full story and the details, and they might feel scared in order to do so. But I want you to know that no, you can just tell them the general idea, and you get to decide when is the right moment. You get to decide how much of the story you want to tell. And it doesn't matter if you don't tell them details. You still took a step and you still gain that courage to tell them, and that's huge.
Firstly, as a survivor, I just want you to know that you are a wonderful, courageous, and resilient individual. And what happened to you was not your fault at all. It was not. When you are choosing to disclose your abuse or your story or your assault, anything that happened to you, I just want you to keep in mind three things. And it would be the how, the why, and the what now. So the how would be kind of like the mode. How do you want to disclose what happened to you? For me personally, I didn't have the words at the beginning. I knew what happened, or I thought I did, but what were the words? How could I say what happened? So I wrote a letter, right? So if you want to write a letter, maybe make a video, write a song, write a poem, any type of way you feel you can best express yourself and what happened to you, you should do that. Not everyone is able to kind of like sit and talk back and forth and this is what happened. Not everyone can do that, and that's okay. The next is the why, your expectations. Why are you sharing what happened? Why are you disclosing, right? Is it to get help? Is it for release? Is it to inspire? Is it to share? You know, why are you doing what you're doing? The expectation of why you're doing it helps you to kind of govern and gauge people's response. For example, if I am sharing my story for release, depending on how the person that I tell reacts, I might not feel badly about it because I'm just finally just releasing what is happening to me. If I am disclosing because I need resources and I don't know what to do, and the individual that I share it with kind of gives me nothing, then, you know, that doesn't feel good at all, right? It just feels like you're let down. So know your expectations, why you're doing it, and what you expect from your disclosure. So the next one is the what now. So after you do it, what's going to happen? You know, you, in this age of technology, there are so many different resources available to you at your fingertips. You can just search, you can search, you can search. And from searching, you can find people who are professionally trained to be able to help you. I know for some people, it might be, oh, I don't have enough money for therapy. Oh, I can't do this. Oh, I can't do that. You would be surprised. There are many free and discounted or inexpensive ways that you can get help. So those are the things that I would say to someone who's thinking, you know, I really want to disclose. I really want to say something. I've had this for years and years and years, or weeks, or months, or days. You know, say something. I think it would make the world of difference.
When abuse happened to me, it was like, and I had heard on it for so long. It was like I had a bell in my mind, something unusual, something unwanted. It was something foreign in my head, and it was when I got triggered. At times, it was ringing, and so you understand when you have these voices in your head, you have something unwanted in your head, and you want to let it out. You just feel uncomfortable. It eats you up, and then when other things happen to you, and you have that bell ringing in your mind becomes worse. Say I'm grieving for death of someone close to me, and I have the bell ringing in my head for something that happened to me 20 years ago or so. It becomes worse. It eats me up. So what I would like to say to survivors is please find someone you trust. You may not want to share it. You may not have the courage to share it on social media just like I did. You may not want to share it with parents because you think they will not believe you. Just find someone, find a professional if you have to, and then share it with them, confide it with them. Let the foreign thing in your mind out, and it will help you a lot, and you will be free. And then you will not only help yourself, but you will also help those close to you. So for me, if I had disclosed earlier that when I was 6 or 7, I was abused by a neighbor, it would have become like protection for my siblings. It would have been something known within my family that, hey, you were abused when you were young. So perpetrators, especially those within the family, would have known, hey, these people have courage. these people are brave, these children from this family are brave, and you cannot hurt them. So I would have protected them. So, but then I didn't, and then they were hurt. They were hurt because I did not disclose in the first. So disclosing to someone, whether within your family or someone close to you or a professional, will help you. It will also help those you love and care about. And again, to add on to that, I have this saying, turning your pain into gain. My friend Sarah said that to me, and it moves me every day. So you can turn your pain into gain. You can horrible happen to you, but you can use that as a bridge, as a drive to help those who are experiencing the same. You just need a little courage, not just need a little bravery, just needs a little inspiration. And that inspiration comes from you. It comes from what happened to you. It was horrible. It was difficult. It was heinous. No one should have done that to you. But you can use that to help those who are experiencing the same, to protect those close to you and to protect those in your community.
The words of wisdom I would tell someone is that you are a survivor. And that's so important, just to remember that you are a survivor and that you survived this harsh experience, and that you are beautiful and you're resilient, and that I would recommend to tell your story. And I know that it's difficult. I know that you might be scared and you might feel like you're not believed, but I recommend telling someone, because the more you hold it in, the more it hurts you inside. It affects your mental health to an extreme if you hold it in for a long time. However, if you're scared that someone's not going to believe you, like a loved one or a friend, seek a professional person, or if you were too scared to seek one-on-one, seek group therapy. There's specific groups for survivors, and they're fully aware of how to approach you in the situation. And they are beautiful people that will change your life. And if you're scared that someone might find out about this, then don't worry, because these facilities keep full disclosure. If you seek out group therapy, then the facility, it doesn't even have labels or anything, so no one will find out. And the same goes with the therapist. They have full disclosure. They're not allowed to tell anybody. So you can be assured that no one is going to know if you feel that way, And also, I would like to tell people that you get to decide when you want to tell your story. You get to decide when you are ready. And it's your story to tell. And I hope that this situation won't affect your life to the extreme. I hope that you will have this harsh moment and change it into a positive thing later on. I hope that you seek help and you will change it into something that will help others, and I think that's the main thing, change it into something different, because if you view it as a negative thing, it does hurt you. But also, that's what helped me, and that's what I would like to tell people, to change it into a positive thing. And yeah, I just want to say again that you are a survivor, and that's the main thing. You are a survivor, you are beautiful, and you're resilient, and you are in control when you want to tell your story. And that you are beautiful for gaining that courage to finally decide to tell someone. That takes a huge amount of courage to tell someone, and it's scary. But I am proud of you for choosing to tell someone. I feel like that's what people need to hear, that I am proud of you to tell someone. I'm happy that you're taking this step to tell someone.
My name is Zinette, and I'm a survivor.
Hi, my name is Alondra, and I am a survivor.
Hi, this is Nova, and I am a survivor.